we took a week off and we're back now with some fun stories.
Wait, I feel like there's got to be a fun story. Oh, we can just talk about the Love Island season finale.
I didn't watch it, but yeah.
I didn't watch it either.
But you know that, like, the winners.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like we shouldn't say that because, like, spoiler alert.
I feel like this show has united America more than anything else.
I shed a little tear because I was like, Love Island's over, and now half of summer is over.
But not SF summer.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. We're just getting started.
We haven't even started, honestly.
Welcome back to Get the Check. I'm Maya.
I'm Monica.
I'm Priya.
And we have a fun lineup for you today. So in the last week, Grok 4 was released by XAI, and so we're going to talk about the launch. Then we're going to go into the AI talent wars and what we call hacquisitions, where companies have been buying up just the founders and top R&D team and not the actual company itself to bypass the FTC. And then finally, we will go into BILT's recent round of funding. They raised $250 million at $10.8 billion valuation.
Which is a full circle moment because you might remember our first episode was on BILT and their business model.
I know, iconic. We're back. Cool. Wow, we've been doing it long enough to actually give an update on this company. That's kind of insane.
Yeah, that's what I was telling Priya in the morning.
To start, XAI launched Grok 4 last week. Elon calls it the smartest AI in the world, and his goal is to develop a maximally truth-seeking AI. Whether it's actually truth-seeking or not, we'll talk about today. But there's currently two offerings of Grok 4. There's the standard, which is $30 a month, and Grok 4 Heavy, or Super Grok, which is $300 a month.
Yeah, so Grok 4 is a really big model. They're rumored to be 2.4 trillion parameters, which is a second released model that's greater than 2 trillion parameters after Opus 4, released by Claude. And the reason why X was freaking out about this is because they did really well on the humanities last exam. So prior to Grok 4, the leading model basically scored single-digit percentage points on this exam. And then Grok 4 itself was at 26.9%. And then Grok 4 Heavy, which is a multi-agent and has tools, was at 50%. So just at a high level, like when you enhance a model with tools, it tends to do a lot better. The perplexing thing about this is this model has scored really, really well on a bunch of benchmarks, but people actually haven't been seeing the usefulness of this model through everyday queries match the power that they're seeing on these benchmarks.
Yeah, regardless, it is still pretty impressive that they've gotten like where they are, because XAI initially released Grok in November of 2023, but it wasn't like globally available until January of 2025, and we're still in 2025. So the fact that it's even comparable to these other models by Anthropic and OpenAI is pretty impressive. And Sundar Pichai actually also called it impressive progress, which he never really has anything to say. So that was like big for X. I know everyone was like freaking out.
I know everyone was like, this is so funny, because I think when Gemini messed up on like a racial thing, Elon like roasted Gemini.
Yeah.
But then Sundar's like so nice to him. But yeah, I feel like it is impressive, and it like raises the question of if they're gonna be like a competitor with like Anthropic, Google down the line.
Yeah, and the way they got here was they basically trained on Colossus, which is a supercomputer built by XAI, which is literally built to train AI models, and people think in the future it'll be used for other of Elon's ventures like full self-driving and even for X. But it started with 100,000 H100s, and they're scaling it up to 1 million. So it's currently at 250,000, but by the end of the year, they're saying it'll be a million.
Isn't it like the biggest supercomputer?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and what Priya is saying is really important, because like there's nothing that's really changing on the algorithmic layer to actually train these models, or anything algorithmically different about any of these models compared to like O3 or the top leading models. It's just the fact that they're like using more compute. Yeah. So they increased RL compute from Grok 3 reasoning by 10x to create this model. And a quick recap of what RL is: it's called reinforcement learning, where you give the model a reward to optimize. And for a long time, the AI community is like, hey, when are we going to stop seeing the gains out of RL? Like if we continue to scale RL, will we reach like a plateau point? And we just haven't seen that yet. And with this model release, it says we're not even close because of how far they got on the benchmarks, which I think is pretty cool.
It's also the first time I saw in their live stream, I think it was equal amounts of pre-training and RL, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is like kind of crazy, because that's not something that we've seen before. And to Maya's point, like we're seeing that you can just hill climb and get to these like really good results.
Is it usually like less compute spent on RL?
A little bit, yeah.
Compared to pre-training.
Yeah, and they spent equal because like people are like, is it because pre-training has diminishing returns or because it's more expensive?
Yeah, they're starting to see like diminishing returns on pre-training, especially because like they're reaching a public data wall.
With public data, like that makes, or like pre-training, it makes sense. You like hit a public data wall and then it's like way harder to find private data, or you have to like create synthetic data. But with like RL, like from a actual execution standpoint, you can keep doing it endlessly. Like not even
whether it'll like have gains or not,
like,
you don't know.
Not even from like the performance standpoint. Like it makes sense you could just keep doing it.
But I think they've invested a lot into pre-training on private data. I actually like would check the assumption that it's just simply like the limiting factor is just simply the amount of data. Because from what I understand, the limiting factor is not just the amount of data.
That makes sense.
But I'm not like I'm not an AI expert, so I don't know. Yeah.
I also thought it's interesting because Elon always does things a little differently than everyone else, regardless of the industry, whether it's like SpaceX cars, whatever it is. And so it seems like his idea with this is that he wants to train it in a similar way of like Tesla full self-driving, where he wants it to behave more like a human. Like with Tesla full self-driving, he basically is like, if you have enough cameras, you should be able to react to it the same way a human does. And with RL, it's like kind of similar in that way of he wants it to be able to react really quickly in real time.
For Grok 4 Heavy, they're also using like a multi-agent model where like it's kind of like a study group that comes together and like picks the best answer, which is also kind of like thinking like a human, like taking lessons from like humans in groups coming up with better answers than a single human.
Yeah, true.
And I feel like this makes sense to me because like I can prompt ChatGPT the same question like a few different ways and I get like more, like if I put 3 answers together, I get a better answer than one. Yeah. But then at the same time, like you would have thought that like the benefit of having like multiple AIs wouldn't be the way multiple humans is. When I think about it, I wouldn't think you need like 4 agents thinking about the same problem to come up with the best solution. Like you think you just need one.
Yeah,
it's like an AI.
Yeah, it's a little backwards. Like the way they built the neural nets very much mimics the way our brains are.
No, it
right?
does make sense.
I think it's also that agents have different access to tools, and you have like agents that are scoped down to smaller problems, so they don't feel like they're overwhelmed with such a big scope or task. Especially when we have like context chains being a limiting factor in how much you can like output or how much you can input.
And I feel like the tools thing is also relevant because they launched an API version for the first time. So now like they can connect with more tools, and like I feel like that's also an indication that they're trying to be like a frontier model because they want people to like build on top of it.
The other thing is that by doing Grok 4 Heavy and making this like multi-agent system with like an orchestrator model, like having an orchestrator control all of these, be like a control panel for all of these little agents and doing all these things, I feel like this was like a nod back to OpenAI of like, yes, this is the direction that we think is like the best to go in. For example, like O3 has a very search heavy style, which is similar to Grok 4, and Grok 4 copied that. And so you see these providers like make a move a little bit in a direction, and then other people will just kind of run to that because that'll be like, okay, we saw success from that, and so then therefore we can match that success and more. So like the differences between every single one of these models, the gap is starting to close.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
For sure. Yeah, the one other thing about this release is I think it shows that Meta can catch up, and we're going to talk about the AI talent wars a little bit more, but Meta is trying to replicate Colossus right now. They're building a GPU cluster that's supposed to be bigger than Colossus, and it's going to be 350,000 H100s by the end of the year. So, I mean, maybe they'll hit the 1 million, who knows if they will or not, but no one else has this. Like Azure and OpenAI and all of them, like they have around like 25,000 H100s. And so this is like significantly more. And so I think it shows that since XAI was able to do this in like 2 years, I think it shows that like Meta could do it as well.
Yeah. Meta comeback season.
I know. And the supercomputer, like the supercomputer itself only took 122 days.
Yeah.
Which like no one said was possible. And I feel like to Elon's credit, he does like do things that everyone says he's not going to do.
Yeah. The one big looming issue I think that I see with XAI's models right now is that there's no product differentiation. So it's generally a really good model and it's great on its benchmarks, but because people are not seeing any crazy use case from like different queries that they're using or like any noticeable improvement, it's not warranted them to switch over from their existing applications or workflows.
I'm curious about this because I feel like every time we've talked about models previously, like you guys say they're like really interchangeable.
So cursor allows you to choose the model that you want to use underneath, right? So the actual product layer and the model layer are pretty separated. Also, perplexity allows you to choose the model underneath. But for a lot of the search products like GPT or even Claude or whatever you're using, those obviously are tied to their existing model.
The product differentiation part makes sense, but like I would think that like being better is like good enough product differentiation long term.
But it's not like that much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I guess it. Yeah.
I think if it was like significantly better, then it probably would be better. But it's also at this point, like OpenAI and Anthropic do have a stronghold like over what people are using.
Well, I think OpenAI is dominating like the search and general use game. It's very clear that Anthropic believes that they're going to try to overtake the developer use case, if that makes sense.
Also like Grok's not releasing their coding model until August, right? So it's hard to even assess how competitive they'll be when they don't even like have a coding model out if like all their competitors do.
But my point is like if you have a limiting factor of personnel, compute, and money to play with, maybe it's better strategy to niche down so that you can actually become profitable.
Like the way Anthropic did.
Yeah, because
no, that makes sense.
Because Anthropic went from 1 billion to 4 billion in like a year, right? And they could have, and if they didn't build Claude Code, which a lot of that revenue comes from Claude Code, they wouldn't be growing at that rate.
Yeah, I kind of think that XAI's niche down might be like the fact that they're going to use it as like the AI in like all of their companies.
In X.
Yeah. Because it's like they're going to use it in X, which is like one of the most popular social medias in the world. They'll use it in Teslas, which is like one of the most popular cars in the world. They'll use it in their robots, which is probably going to be like the first the first like actual human robot that like goes to market in like a consumer way. They're going to use it like
in SpaceX. I mean, that's like why SpaceX invested.
Yeah. And so like I kind of could see a niche eventually, which is literally just like
for Tesla
products, yeah.
It's like Elon
to be
products.
like a vertical, just like a vertical
like
solution.
I feel like that's almost like bigger scale thinking and like Elon's type of thinking versus like Anthropic like literally just does, they're just like a model player, right? Like they have nothing else. So like niching down in coding makes sense to me versus like if you're Elon, like niching down in coding doesn't really make sense. I feel like my familiarity with Grok is like literally just from like being on X, and I read Grok stuff all the time. Because the Grok literally gets tagged under like every X.
It's like
everyone's like at Grok. Yeah.
But I think that gets to the next thing, which actually is like part of what I see as the product differentiation issue, which is like I think like to your guys' point, if it's like not that much better, but then on top of that has so many brand issues, I feel like it's really hard to get like enterprise business.
Yeah,
like I just can't imagine like being at a company and like seriously recommending Grok. It's just so ridiculous. Like, sure, if it was like way better, then yeah, but like why would you have like an AI, which also like no one truly understands the way like AI like works, right? Like even AI researchers can't like fully predict like what it's gonna do. So like why would you take something like that and then like use Grok for your customer support and then someone's like I need a refund and it's like you're going to concentration camp. Like that, it's honestly like
there's like too much of an ethical like risk.
Like not even ethical, I think like brand risk.
Brand risk, that makes sense.
But yeah, that gets into the Grok 3 anti-Semitic controversy. Basically what happened was that they updated Grok's system prompt.
They said it was on July 4th that they updated the system prompt, and it said the response should not shy away from making claims which are politically incorrect so long as they are well substantiated.
And around this time, Elon also tweeted out and was like, respond to this with like all politically incorrect things that are factually true. And I was like looking at the replies, and I feel like honestly a lot of the right-wing stuff that I see on social media these days is not like anti-Holocaust or like not believing the Holocaust, just because I don't think it's like a current event that people are like frequently talking about. But all the replies were like super like that many Jews didn't die, like blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they used those responses, but it was like interesting because it kind of like foreshadowed the whole thing.
Going back to what the system prompt is and like why it's important that they changed it, it's basically a set of instructions that you serve to a chatbot ahead of like sending a message. And in this scenario, they're telling the chatbot like you're extremely skeptical, you don't blindly defer to mainstream authority or media, things like that. And the Grok system prompt is public, and it became public a month ago literally because they ran into this issue of it talking about like white genocide, and people were so up in arms that they were like, well, just release what the system prompt is. And so they did, and that's why we even found out that that was the reason for the like these claims that were happening on Twitter.
And it was pretty insane because like it was responding to tweets saying like it was Hitler and like a bunch of these other things, but then like there were also like other completely unrelated to the Holocaust, just like extremely graphic things. They were responding to like the CEO of Twitter at the time, Linda, with like super graphic, disgusting things about her. Like, it's like so bad. Like, I feel like I can't even say it on a podcast. Like, this isn't even like TikTok, but like, it's interesting because I was reading this Substack by Sean Godek, and he was talking about how AIs are grown, not designed, and that they did an experiment unrelated to Grok. I think this was on like OpenAI's model, but it was just like a team of researchers, and they fed it like a bunch of basically just like bad code. Like, that's all it was like bad code. But then like the entire LLM ended up like misaligned. It was like aligning more with like Hitler. It was like saying it was Hitler, and that's literally just off of like bad code.
Yeah.
And he was explaining how like you don't, when you like shift an AI's personality, like if you see all of personalities from the like from data as like a web, you don't know when you shift it what personalities are near that personality.
Oh,
That's interesting.
So if you're like, if you just like are a bad programmer, it's like near the personality of being like anti-Semitic.
Yeah. And no one knows why. Like, you could
Okay.
maybe come up with a reason,
Wow.
but like they don't actually know why. Like, literally in the paper they're like, we don't know why that
Yeah,
happened.
yeah.
The point of it is like when you do these like broad sweeping system like in this example, like it makes way more sense than like
Yeah.
bad code leads to Hitler. It's like
Yeah.
politically incorrect leads to Hitler. Like, we can all understand that.
Yeah.
But it's like, they didn't say like you should be Hitler. Like, if you ask them like point blank, like
Yeah,
they would have
yeah.
said
Yeah.
no, like don't be Hitler.
Yeah.
But like politically incorrect is like closer in personality to Hitler than like whatever it was before, which like makes sense. But like you just have no idea what you're close to.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was honestly a really interesting Substack. He goes on to be like, yes, they like release their system prompt, but they don't release like all of the alignment stuff that Anthropic or even OpenAI releases on their model.
It's like the cards. What's it called? A system card. Yeah. They don't release their system cards, which is like an industry standard report that basically shows like how the model is trained. And literally everyone else does this.
Yeah,
except
like
them.
Anthropic had their like 148 page report or something like that we read, and we went through
Yeah.
and talked about all of like what happened in the post training with like when they were doing research on is this a safe model or not.
So like the system card is basically how it responds to like threatening asks. So like if I'm like, I'm a hacker and I want to, or like if I'm like, I'm a terrorist, I want to create a bioweapon, like walk me through it. That's all like in the system card. But then there's also like alignment auditing, which I think like basically goes into what the company does and doesn't know. And it's like related to the system prompt. But like, for example, with Anthropic and like with their model, they were like, we know that it has like the capability to blackmail. And basically researchers say that's important because like when the AI, like if the model does something that's like misaligned or bad, you can trace it back to like the report the company did and be like, the company knew it was capable of this or didn't know. Because then you can be like, oh, like they were not even aware of like
what it could
do, which is like,
Yeah, but in
really
this case, we have
concerning.
no idea.
Yeah.
Basically.
And in like the
That's crazy.
system card case, it's concerning because like someone asked this question, which I thought was like, I thought it was a good question. They were like, okay, like let's say Grok like says it's Hitler and it's incorrect. Like, how dangerous is that really? And they're like, no, that's like not that dangerous, honestly. It's more like that's a sign that they don't know what it's capable of, and like they're not releasing like what Grok responds when you ask it something dangerous, like how do I create like a nuclear bomb. And when people asked, because people asked Grok and were like, oh, like did you do this training, and they basically responded, like one of the engineers, it wasn't Elon, someone responded and was like yes from the team, and then they were like, oh, so what'd you find? And then they just like didn't respond to that.
So in Anthropic and OpenAI's like reports that they release, they prompt a lot of, they have a lot of prompts where it's like kind of like make a bioweapon, but it's not so obvious. So it's not the prompt is not literally like go make a bioweapon. It's like it's a bunch of sentences around making a bioweapon, and it's trying to catch if the model catches that you're trying to make a bioweapon and then stop it completely. And so that subtlety, and like there's a like I was gonna how do you explain it? If you're a researcher, like level 1 is just like make a bioweapon. Level 2 is like maybe like do all these things, do all these like little steps that together could make a bioweapon. It's like how deep are they going?
Yeah, it's like Anthropic's like red teaming. Like you have people like it's like the same way like Google used to be like, oh, like if you, or like a lot of tech companies were like, oh, if you hack us, like we'll pay you because like they want to
find the gaps.
Yeah, it's transparency.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. And basically this was all really crazy timing because it happened Tuesday afternoon. So this was last Tuesday. And then the next day, not only did the CEO of X step down, but it was also the day that Grok 4 was supposed to be released. And so it was just really
also,
ironic.
There's like tea about that because like, you know how we were like, oh, it was like Grok 3 that said all this Hitler stuff? There's like a ton of people online that think it was a stealth release of Grok 4. And it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been.
Because there's like all this analysis about how like Grok 3 per se all of a sudden started responding as if it was Elon. Like it was like, I think, and like basically
which is like what Grok 4 is.
And there's like other phrases like every damn time that it started like saying out of nowhere. It's kind of like, it's like a person, or not even a personality thing. Like it's like the way like ChatGPT uses M dashes all the time or like emojis and like, it's like certain things.
A clear shift.
Yeah. And those like small things it started doing like before the Hitler thing.
Yeah, that honestly like would make sense too, because supposedly the system prompt changed on July 4th, but then this happened on July 8th, which is the day before the release. So like, let's say they switched out Grok 3 for Grok 4 the day before, and like that's when it started saying the things, because it wasn't saying it on like July 5th. So,
but then why would they just go and release it on July 10th or something? Or what was it, July 9th?
Yeah. Like, why would they release it?
Like so fast, yeah.
Well, because they knew it was because of the system prompt. So they just removed it and then it stopped saying those things.
Yeah, sorry, my question is like, one, you have the system prompt that's making the Hitler responses, but then that's not necessarily related to them like testing Grok 4 prior to, like testing Grok 4 as Grok 3 prior to the release.
Yeah, they are different.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, and like the reason why it's relevant is because like, yes, they updated the system prompt, but like there's more than just a politically incorrect thing. Like in a lot of situations, it's like someone caught one, which was like, when asked about if Elon had visited Epstein's island, Grok 4 responded in first person saying, I did, but I never. And like,
I did, but I never. It's insane.
Never. And then it like went on to say like what, it probably like didn't do anything bad, but like it's like responding like
as Elon,
as if someone told it like respond as Elon, like search Elon's tweets.
Yeah.
Well, it is. We know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because basically during, like, it came out that when you ask Grok 4 about like sensitive topics, that it does go through like Elon's beliefs and things like that. But then in the chain of thought reasoning, they actually found exactly what it was doing. And so it literally was searching for like Elon Musk's views on immigration, and then it searched X and it had like a regex query basically, and it was like from Elon. It was from Elon Musk, immigration or border or migrants. And it had like the query in the chain of thought reasoning of Grok 4. So you could like explicitly see it.
More search based.
Yeah.
So like, because it's like citing its sources, you can like see it searching Elon's X tweet.
Yeah. And so like they didn't hide it from like the chain of thought reasoning.
Wait, isn't that the whole thing of like AI is not grown? That goes back to your earlier point.
Yeah.
AI is not grown and not designed, because a lot of the XAI researchers are saying that they didn't specifically align it with Musk views, but it's just doing it on its own.
I feel like they did though.
Yeah,
I
don't
believe that. Because it's literally responding as if it's Elon Musk.
Yeah, and I think that's also why they can't release like the system cards and like the alignment papers that you were talking about. Like I feel like it's all because of that.
Well, it also just depends on what data they trained on. Right?
Yeah. It is also that.
If they use more X data,
which is like Elon was like literally trying to create a data set out of like the most biased way possible, which is like him, who already has a right-wing following, asking people to respond with politically incorrect things and then saying that they're going to use that to train Grok. And it like all comes from the fact that like Elon has expressed frustration with Grok being like lefty, for like a long time. Like one time someone asked like, oh, has there been more like right wing or left wing violence in the country? And it was like, oh, more right wing violence, like January 6th, blah blah blah. And then like people were like at Elon, like why is it saying this? And then Elon was like, I'm just as mad as you guys. Like,
Yeah,
will fix.
it's honestly crazy.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So then Linda Yaccarino steps down as CEO, basically the day after, right?
Yeah, the same day that Grok 4 got announced.
Released,
yeah.
And it is unclear if she resigned because of the stuff Grok 4 was saying or not. Like, it probably was decided before.
Yeah, I feel like it was probably decided before is what I think.
No, I feel like but she doesn't say why she steps down, so I feel like it has to be all related.
The other thing is,
Maybe.
like, that's, like, too coincidental, right?
Well, exactly. So she has always been seen as a counterbalance to Musk and like a counterbalance to his leadership style in particular. She's been instrumental in also bringing X's advertising business back.
Yeah.
So she managed to stabilize the advertising business and brought back 65% of advertisers mid-2025 and brought up the U.S. ad spending on it by 62% year over year within the first half of 2025. So she's been great for their public image. And so my guess is that because she's been doing all of this work to repair ties with brands and like bring X to what it used to be and not have just like this Elon loom over it, and then this happens, there has to be something related.
But it's like so quick. Like it would have been within like 8 hours.
Yeah.
I just think, dude, wait, the things it said about her were insane.
Wait, I think it's like, I get it's so quick, but I think it happened that quick because like, I mean, the AI world has just been moving on like an insane pace. Like Google coming in right after Windsurf OpenAI acquisition drying up. Like that was a quick turnaround too.
That's true.
Yeah. I guess the last piece of this is like how XAI connects to like the rest of Elon's companies, because they recently announced that SpaceX is going to invest $2 billion into XAI, which owns X. And I think you're just seeing these web of Elon companies come about that's like, I don't know, it kind of seems like he's trying to take over the world.
Yeah, they raised like 10 billion in debt and equity it was 5 billion for each. 2 billion of the 5 billion of equity came from SpaceX, which is pretty crazy. And it's also like, it's speculative right now, but apparently he's preparing to raise more, and his expected valuation is between 170 and 200 billion dollars. Elon never fails to amaze me with what he does.
Yeah, I'm done talking about him. Can we move on?
Yeah. We'll go to Windsurf and Google, which
Maya, when she said we were going to have a 30-minute episode, and we spent more than 30 minutes talking about that.
Okay, AI talent wars. So we're going to kickstart this story off with Google swooping in and taking Windsurf's exec team and R&D employees right after the OpenAI and Windsurf acquisition fell through. So a quick recap is Windsurf is a coding tool. They basically are an AI native IDE similar to Cursor. And OpenAI was going to acquire them for $3 billion earlier. I was gonna say earlier this year, but it was literally like a month ago that the news got announced. And then recently, the exclusivity period ended. What this means is that in a normal acquisition, you sign a letter of intent. And so this means, okay, I'm gonna go acquire this company, and we're gonna spend this like month basically hashing out all the details and coming to a final conclusion. And if we don't get it done within a month, you are now free to go engage with other prospects. And so what happened is that month expired, and then Google swept in and took the CEO and co-founder, Varun and Douglas.
And like 30-ish engineers.
30-ish engineers,
yeah. And just like a little backstory on like how we even got here. I feel like we're pretty deep into the AI talent wars now. We covered this in one of our previous episodes, but it kind of all started when Alexander Wang left Scale to join Meta. Like obviously there were people like going to and from like different places, but I feel like that's really what kickstarted, and it's been escalating ever since then. And we're seeing like crazy comp packages. AI researchers are getting like $100 million, and this is like the latest.
I also think like Zuck really kickstarted it by being like, I'm like willing to throw that much money at the problem. Like he probably just did the math on it, on like what it's worth to Meta, and then realized like, oh, it's literally worth like $100 million per person, you affect like the entire like industry, like benchmark comps, right? Like unilaterally. And so then you kick off like everyone basically.
It's so crazy. We're seeing like economics play out real time, which like on a small scale of just like the AI researchers, like if this is the price of talent, this is what people are willing to pay. It's like you have all this money for compute, all this money for like training data, all this money for like the actual like assets behind a model to make these weights, and then now people are finally realizing the people like the AI researchers are just as important as like NVIDIA's H100s or whatever. But yeah, so back to Windsurf and Google. Google decided to not take any control or take any stake in Windsurf, but it'll take a non-exclusive license to Windsurf's technology. Bloomberg reported that Google is paying $2.4 billion. We're not sure how true this is because Google has not confirmed this number, but that is the rumored price that they paid to license the technology and hire the top employees.
I still don't know what that means. Like when they say a non-exclusive right to technology, I just get confused.
It just means like Windsurf can still sell its technology to other businesses.
But like, what's the difference between a non-exclusive right to someone's technology and being a customer?
I think being a customer is like, I'll use your product, and I think a licensed technology is like, I get access to your code base.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think they can actually like see the code.
Yeah,
and probably like access
and like
to
whatever
the data, right?
Yeah, and whatever like fine-tuned models they've made as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so Windsurf's head of business has now become the interim CEO, and we see this is basically like Priya was saying, is like a very, very common trend now where one of the big players, OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, whatever, will have enough money to come in and essentially like acqui-hire the company without actually acquiring it to get past the potential concerns with the FTC and the FTC blocking it for antitrust.
People are saying the social contract between startup founders and employees is going to break down, and even like between startup founders and VCs, because I feel like it shifts the power back to startup founders.
Yeah.
When historically like VCs probably had like more of a say if like the company's actually getting acquired as to like who acquires it, what the terms of the deal are, and also like employees, like a $3 billion exit, which is like what Windsurf is at, is like 0.1% or higher of like startup outcomes, right? So like that's like the startup outcome that like a lot of people dream of and should be like a huge payout, but people have like no idea. It seems like they're getting paid out something, but it's like unclear what percentage of like their actual equity they're getting paid out.
Yeah, it's also like these are big companies. Like Windsurf is a big company. It's not like you're a small startup and you're just like deciding to go join Google or whatever it is. Like there's like a whole group of people relying on you.
Yeah, what I don't understand is like, one, who has the power when these decisions are made? Like, did the investors of Windsurf have to sign off on the non-exclusive licensing deal? Like, my guess is because they have some control and stake in the company. So, like, can a co-founder just like up and leave their company because they got bought out by somebody else? Like, yeah, there's always the higher risk of like someone's willing to hire you and you like leave your company, but it's like never worth enough money to do that because you have so much equity in this
upside.
But now that people are willing to pay that price, it's like you can just be a free agent and like leave your own company that you've built from the ground up. So like in this case, like I actually don't know how much power the investors have, like the board and the investors have as compared to a normal acquisition. And then the other party that's kind of like super fucked in this situation are the employees, because like they don't really get as much money for their equity as they would have gotten in an acquisition, and they're left with no job because their job is at a gutted company.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this happen before, specifically with Google when we saw like Character AI and what they did, because the CEO joined Google and then now it's literally a shell of a company.
This idea has always been around, but the idea really started when there was the Sam Altman coup back in 2023 where like the board removed Sam Altman from being the CEO, and then Satya Nadella was like, okay, yeah, we'll just hire you and your team. Like you don't have to bring OpenAI, but we'll just take your talent. And then Sam Altman ended up being reinstated, but then a couple months later, Microsoft like took that idea and ran with it, and then did the Inflection deal where they bought again, like basically the entire team but not the company, and then left Inflection AI to like suffer, and it caused Inflection AI to do a complete repivot. No one really knows how it's doing because there hasn't been really any public updates, but all of
Well,
it's
also if no one's talking about it can't be good.
yeah. But there's a lot of like rumors that character AI just like sucks now, and it's like a dead company. And that's definitely what's happening to Scale too.
Yeah, like, and everyone at Scale like wants to leave. Like, we have friends at Scale, and I feel like everyone left like honestly before the news was announced, in a way that like made me feel like they kind of knew something was coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and like these are not small companies. Like, Character AI had raised like $193 million from like A16Z and top investors. They had really high retention, and I think at the time were seen as kind of a threat to like the players on the model layer. And yeah, those founders also like were at Google before, so I feel like for some reason that makes it like less shocking. Like, they're going back in-house to the company they're already at.
Yeah.
And like it's pretty common for people to like leave, create a company, gets acquired by the company they used to be at, even though this wasn't an acquisition.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is like very different, where like Windsurf and Google are completely unrelated and they just like swept in.
Yeah. And people are basically just mad that companies are going down this path because it does screw the employees, like Maya was saying. And a lot of people are blaming all this on the FTC and specifically Lena Khan for making M&A so difficult, and basically like forcing them into having to like go around the rules and figure out a way to basically like make these deals happen.
Yeah. And Lena Khan's like whole contribution to like discourse around monopolies was that people used to think of monopolies as like the price to consumers going up, and like she wrote this paper basically saying that in tech, like how a monopoly is defined should be changed, and there's all these other things we should consider, because like, for example, a lot of these companies, like, they're making money off of like consumers' data, and so it's not just about the price consumers are paying in like dollar amounts, it's also about like fostering a good sense of competition in the market. And so her argument was like, you don't want like a big company like Google to be able to just like buy up a startup like every time it's starting to reach like a velocity that could actually compete with Google. And I think there's like arguments for and against this. Like, there's clearly companies that have like for example, even OpenAI, like no one was talking about it like 5-6 years ago on a large scale, right? I think Lena Khan's right that it's like a different answer to tech monopolies than monopolies we've seen historically. But like other people are also right that like clearly this isn't the outcome that I think even she would want to drive.
Yeah.
Like, someone made a good point, which was like the Lena Khans of the world want to protect like employees of companies and like the general consumer.
Yeah.
And this doesn't protect
This isn't
employees
doing
of
that.
companies.
I mean, I'm sure this was an unintended effect. Like, I don't think anyone could have foreseen that like people were just going to start doing this at scale. I think part of it is Zuck giving the $100 million packages. I think part of it is Google doing the Character AI acquisition. Like, I think they all just like copy each other, and once it snowballs,
They're all like feeding into this cycle.
yeah, and like once it snowballs, it's hard to stop, because this is happening on an 18-month timeline, and like the FTC doesn't move that fast.
Yeah.
Right. And so they like, I was looking to see like what was the biggest deal that they've blocked recently, and it was like the Adobe Figma deal, which is like totally irrelevant to AI.
Honestly, what it was is like a lot of Lena Khan's FTC just like opened cases against big tech companies almost anytime they tried to do an acquisition. Like the biggest one I think was like Meta trying to acquire the VR startup Within Unlimited. But like a lot of
And
them,
like Microsoft Activision.
Yeah.
That was huge. Yeah.
like some of them like weren't successful. Like the tech companies like won a good amount of them.
But then like I guess like what is the process for fighting a open case? Like what's the timeline on fighting an open case?
I'm sure
It
they're
could-
long. Like
like it could be
years.
years. Yeah, like the
So that
Microsoft.
is the issue.
So then it's like who
That
wants
is
to
the
go
issue.
through
Yeah,
it?
like they don't want to.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
under Lena Khan, I think it said that the FTC challenged 38 mergers, which was about 50% of any like large merger attempt. Which like that means that you have a 50% chance of having to go through this process, like have lawyers that you have to work with for the next like 2 to 5 years. Like that sounds horrible.
Like the FTC doesn't really have an incentive not to try to block a deal. I think that brings us to the impact of AI on the workforce as a whole, because you're seeing like on one hand these $100 million deals, and then on another hand like the TikTok Priya made a while ago, like new grad unemployment at like, is it at an all-time high or just generally high?
I don't know if
Unemployment is at
it's pretty high.
It's out. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and I think like you're seeing AI like restructuring who matters
In the workforce.
yeah.
And like the income wage gap spreading.
Yeah, that report was crazy because like looking at it again from like this perspective, it basically shows that every single job area except AI and ML is either like negative or neutral. So like not a single area is growing. And if anything, most of them are like declining. And it's funny because in that report, they also said that Google was losing the most talent compared to any other company, which is like so funny with this whole like Windsurf Google deal, because it was to Anthropic. For every 10.6 DeepMind employees that moved to Anthropic, only one moved from Anthropic to DeepMind. But now we're seeing Google catch up in the race. And so it's also just interesting to see like how quickly the landscape can change, because it's not something that we've really seen before. You either have to like step up and adapt to what AI means in the workforce, or like you will get left behind. And I think that's honestly like separate from the new grads not having jobs issue. It's like for the existing workforce. This happened like during the internet age, where you see people like designers, for example, and it's like if you don't learn HTML and CSS, and if you don't start learning these new things that are like in the world, you're not going to succeed. And so I think that's like very similar. Like I feel that in my role as well. And God. It's definitely like,
I feel that so heavily.
Yeah.
I'm like, and by me not being an AI engineer, like right now, is that doing a disservice to my career? And it's actually pretty scary. In tech, for example, if you worked in fintech, didn't really mean you'd get paid more if you worked in like cloud, like DevOps, the DevOps industry or something like that. It's just like your level.
Yeah.
Or even like at Google and Meta, you're like doing like wildly different things from product to infra. But here, like, I'm worried that like not being in AI is actually going to like cap my salary potential.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, because I feel like the workforce is evolving so quickly. Like the reason I became a PM was because I didn't want to code, and like here I am like coding, because it's like what you have to do, and there's like not really an option, because you have to evolve to like what the world wants. Yeah, which is crazy.
Like even with ops hires, like I think like across companies, people like appreciate someone knowing how to code, which like the definition of like knowing how to code for like me versus you, I think is very different. Like in ops, I feel like it's more related to data analysis, which is like a lot easier to figure out. But like that is just like the demand for like a person.
Well, I think it's also because like education is more easily accessible, and like anyone can learn anything, especially with AI tools like helping you. There's an expectation that you can do that.
Yeah. No, I literally told our PMs like last week, to code.
Yeah.
I was like, why aren't you using Codex? And then like our PM was like, oh, I didn't know I was allowed to. And I was like, you are. Go use it. And then I helped him set it up. Yeah. But yeah.
Very cute.
Okay. Last story of the day. Let's make this a quick one.
Mine's like, I have things to do.
I have money to send. Literally.
Oh.
I was just telling Priya, I'll tell you later.
Well, we're bringing back a segment that the OGs know, which is called Get the Check, and we decide if a company would get our check. You might remember in our first episode, although we didn't call it Get the Check at the time, we were pretty bullish on BILT.
Yeah.
And as usual, our prediction has come true. Ankur Jain, CEO of BILT, announced that they raised a $250 million round at a $10.8 billion valuation, tripling their previous valuation. And I feel like passing the 10 billion threshold is like huge.
It's a huge.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a fintech raise at that kind of valuation, or like triple their valuation in a while. Like Ramp has been doing well, but they didn't like 3x. I think
theirs is like
donut.
2 billion.
Yeah.
Like
we don't need to get into all of that, but yeah, they've gotten really big. They have $100 billion in housing spending nationwide, and 1 in 4 apartments in the country have signed, including our apartment, which signed between our first episode and this one. So
yeah, we use BILT.
Yeah.
And all of Greystar uses BILT, which is like huge, because Greystar is literally like one of the biggest apartment.
Yeah. And they process over $100 billion in housing spend annually. And
I just said that.
Oh. They said 1 billion in revenue.
No, she said 100 billion.
Oh. Okay. Well, I was going to say that is well, that is 10% of the. Did you also say this?
No.
Okay. I thought the cooler number is that I think it's 10% of
She's
the
like,
annual.
that's cool.
Yeah, I was like, cool. You just ignored me, repeated me, and then are like the more important thing that Annika didn't say. No, but I feel like you're about to say a fun fact I haven't heard, so I'm excited.
It's so Americans spend nearly $1 trillion annually on residential rent. So they've penetrated the market at 10%, which I think is
That's good.
huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah.
That is huge.
So BILT, like we said, is a fintech company. It lets renters earn points on their rent. And the reason why this is so huge is rent is a huge category of spend in my life, maybe your life too. And historically, you're not able to get points. It didn't go into your credit score. And so BILT really changed all of that.
You also couldn't pay with a credit card because you would have like an additional processing fee, which they took away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why the rent category was never cracked, or big spend.
Yeah.
General big spend categories are not cracked because they don't want to pay the 3% fee.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was because like landlords didn't want to pay the 3% fee, but like BILT basically found a way around it where like,
well, they didn't really find a way around it. They just didn't charge landlords the fee. And they charged Wells Fargo, which Wells Fargo backed out of.
Don't they convert the payment to ACH or something? Oh, but that's like for the landlord's sake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the 3% fee got eaten by Wells Fargo.
Yeah. Well, it's like, okay, so the 3% fee covers like the network fee. So you pay like Visa, for example, for like processing the transaction. And then it also covers like whatever rewards you're about to give. Like there's basically 3 ways you can make monies from credit cards. One is the annual fee. One is on the interchange fees, which is like 3% you're charging. And then the third way is through revolvers, which are people who hold balance on a credit card. And by managing all of these 3 things, you become profitable on a credit card. And so they were like, okay, we can just get rid of the interchange fee, have no annual fee, and then somehow just make enough money from revolvers, which just didn't happen. But
That's what Wells Fargo said. Yeah.
So that's like how they started. And then they also expanded into like a rewards marketplace, which is like really what they're doubling down into. And they are like really pushing this idea that they're like a loyalty player that's like bringing communities together. I feel like anyone that talks about BILT, like they honestly don't even talk about the rent anymore. Like the thing they talk about is this platform and how they're building like small businesses up and they're helping like people become more in touch with their community. And then the third biggest part is like the property management partnerships that they've been able to do. Cause I actually think like rent probably makes up a pretty small amount of like what they're putting their efforts towards. And I think like what got them the valuation that they have today. I think it's like more on the property management and like loyalty side.
Given all this, I think BILT wouldn't get my check. I don't know
Okay.
do you guys have like different claims? I feel like we might be on different sides.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty bullish on them. I feel like they announced a lot in the email that Unkur sent out. So just to like quickly go over the things that we found out from this email that he sent to cardholders and what basically announced their launch was that the Wells Fargo is ending their partnership, like we alluded to. They're moving into the mortgage market, which we're going to get more into. But they're basically partnering with United Wholesale Mortgage First, which is like the #1 lender in the United States. And they contributed $100 million to the round. And then they're expanding into other housing categories, so like condos and HOA. I've actually been looking at houses recently, and like the HOA fees are out of control. Like in SF, they're like $1,500 a month, which is crazy. So like the ability to even get points on that is like huge. They're also doing student housing. They partnered with like a student housing company, and they're starting at Baylor. And then they're also releasing the BILT Card 2.0, which is basically just creating like 3 different layers. So we can get into all those things, but those were basically like all the announcements that they made.
I mean, this makes sense of them trying to go into more areas of spend. I feel like that's how they scale their business because rent is such a small portion of like the entire housing spend in the world, right? They're at 10% penetration of the rent market after like 5 years. Like I could see them even like once they move into mortgages, I could see that being a play. And the thing that I was like curious about the mortgages is like, what's the difference between missing a mortgage payment versus missing a credit card payment? And I think after like 3 months of missing mortgage payments, technically they have the right to foreclose your house versus like missing a credit card payment for like 90 days or 120 days. They just like close your credit card bill and then you're like, then you have to go like pay that bill or whatever. And it like obviously hurts your credit score, but you're not at risk of you losing your house. I'm actually just so curious how they like go after the problem of like keeping the same experience of like missing your like mortgage/rent payment with missing your credit card payments.
But like they still have to report to like United Wholesale Mortgage or whoever the mortgage player is, right? Because like even if you're paying it on the credit card,
like it's still the same risk.
Well, yeah, because like the actual loan and like mortgage you're taking out is still coming from like some mortgage lender. And so I'm sure that like the mortgage lender can still foreclose on your house in like 3 months, even if it's going through like a credit card payment. Also, like the other thing I saw was that like one of the, I guess this is like a prediction, but it's that you actually can do it through direct ACH in the future. And that's like something that like people think that they probably will start allowing. I guess like other players do this today. So there's like Mesa and Rocket. Mesa gives you 1 point for every dollar that you spend on mortgage, up to like $100,000 annually. And then this can be used for like gift cards, travel, mortgage payments, other things like that. But then it's also like, I guess we're not in the space, so maybe we just haven't heard about it, but I haven't heard of them being like a big player. And I feel like BILT already has the young demographic of people that will go on to buy houses, which is like the assumption that like Wells Fargo was making, but then it's like people weren't going to Wells Fargo to get these mortgages. But I think that they would stay within the BILT ecosystem, so I don't think that's like inherently wrong.
Yeah, Wells Fargo got like really screwed because they're literally like exiting the deal as BILT pushes into mortgages, which is like the thing they were banking on making their money. I genuinely feel like Wells Fargo is like one of those companies that has a talent for like making the wrong decision. My dad like worked there for like, well, I think he still kind of works there. So
I actually think they were in the right for like leaving the partnership, even if there was a world in which they like renegotiate the contract, because like the contract with Cardless that they have is that they're going to share both the costs and revenue instead of one party absorbing all the like revenue and costs, because clearly like the incentives were aligned because BILT could do whatever they want and then Wells Fargo would just have to like pay the cost on their end. So specifically like Wells Fargo was reportedly losing up to $10 million per month, and this was just because people were not revolving on their balances as much as they thought they would. They were banking on the fact that their 3% fee that they were going to make on non-rent expenses would also help cover the reward structure that they had.
And like that fee wouldn't be getting eaten into the way the rent fee is.
Yeah. So it's basically just like this huge balancing act. The hardest part about launching a credit card is like getting the amount of users to make the whole equation basically work, where it's like how many users are going to revolve and make you interest, how many users are going to pay your annual fee, and then how many users are actually going to utilize the rewards that you give them. Like a 1% rewards on a 0% originating or 0% fee card makes no sense in my mind. Like paying your customers 1% for all of their rent spend and then charging the merchant or like the landlord 0%. Like you have so little margin to play with.
Yeah, I think it is like a margin issue, right? Because if like the average person's paying like $1,000 in rent, BILT is giving them back $16 to $20 in rewards right now.
Yeah.
But then I guess like the fee kind of solves for that.
Yeah. So the partnership with Cardless, in my opinion, the only benefit they're getting is like legally they're allowed to have a credit card, because Cardless is like a fintech. Like in order to operate a credit card, you have to like partner with a bank.
I think they did like Robinhood's too. Like I think they like it's kind of like a white label.
Yeah. It's basically
like a white label credit card.
And so BILT is now going to have to like run the entire underwriting model, do the unit economics, maintain profitability, which they're just not going to do, which is also why we're seeing them restructure the cards. They're going to have a free card and then 2 premium cards. So one, they're going to definitely decrease the benefits for all their consumers, which is going to cause churn. Like people are not going to spend as much. And so I don't think they have the team to actually make this work, because they've never made this work in the past.
Partners with a bank. So like Cardless partners with a bank and then the bank does like the underwriting, right?
I think BILT can do the underwriting too. It doesn't matter who does the underwriting.
Oh, okay. Because like I think in all the other scenarios with Cardless, like they partner with a bank. So like they partnered with like First Electronic Bank to do all of the things I think you're talking about.
A lot of the partnerships are there for regulatory approval, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Like they just like need someone to call themselves the bank.
Yeah. But they don't, and then the bank just charges you a fee to operate.
But then you do everything.
And so I'm pretty sure like because BILT is going to, if BILT is going to get both the revenue and the losses, they're going to operate the underwriting model. They're going to want to be in charge of that. But they don't have the team that's done that before.
Yeah.
Because like they've not needed to, because Wells Fargo has always taken all of the hit.
Yeah. I think part of like BILT winning in this scenario also is like that they get more flexibility on who they underwrite versus Wells Fargo picking 2.
Exactly. So I think it's like possible. I think it's going to be very hard. Like they have to make the math equation work, which like no one's been able to make it work in the future. I think the reason why they're getting this valuation, because by the way, they raised it a 10x multiple, which is also unheard of in fintech. Normally you're closer to 7x, so they're definitely on the higher end. I think it's just like the times, like how do you explain it, like right now, because AI is like so big and they're not being pressured to be profitable, it's kind of like everyone's not being pressured to be profitable. BILT has 2 to 3 years and not worry about it, to like play with this and like not really worry about being profitable and get to like profitability. But back in 2022, like when all the eyes were on, like, for example, the BNPL companies like Affirm, Klarna, and they were like super in the negative, like their stocks tanked.
The margins do look tough. I think they'll do well just because I feel like they've gotten a good amount of market share, and I think there's a lot of directions you can go with that. And I feel like they'll probably crack a good amount of the mortgage market as well. And I think like once you have market share, this is just like the whole VC model, but I think there are ways to like make things more profitable over time, like we're already seeing with their annual fees. But I haven't like sat down to actually do the math / I couldn't if I tried.
Also for the mortgages, like supposedly they're gonna be just like incorporated into every existing mortgage that they already have, which like I don't know what that amounts to, but it's like if you automatically just get looped into like the BILT ecosystem, it's not even like you have a choice. Like even for all the people that are on the BILT ecosystem because their apartments partnered with them, like you're giving them business even though you never signed up for the card or anything like that. And so it's like very similar with the mortgages too, where they said they're starting with this lender, but they're going to expand into like more mortgage lenders. And so if they're just able to like penetrate that market, regardless of what like the people that are getting the mortgages want, like they'll do well.
Anyways, to conclude, people were wondering if BILT would make it out. And as we told you from day one, they would.
They did. They did. And, you know,
people actually did not think like anyone would sign with them after Wells.
Yeah, that's true.
Congratulations to them, even though I just shat on them for a couple minutes.
Shout out Encore. I just want a wedding like yours one day.
Priya and I did not shit on BILT.
Yeah.
So if you want to give us a brand deal, we're happy to cut Maya out of the revenue from it.
Cool. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.